Business, pumpkin spice, three things that you need, Perez.
No.
And also to the Secretary of State, Michael Watson. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, my friend. Perez said no.
I know. Pumpkin spice hand sanitizer. It's brand spanking new. Pumpkin spice deodorant.
No.
Let your armpit smell like a little latte for the fall.
Jeez.
Too much.
And pumpkin spice hard seltzer. Sounds a little crazy, but two
No.
popular trends combine the two. Pumpkin spice hard seltzer, pumpkin spice deodorant, and pumpkin spice hand sanitizer. I think we can do without.
Is there a mandate that you have to try those?
No, you don't, unless Joe Biden is the president and he'll make you do that. So stop. Lots of things to talk about. When I had Lucian on yesterday, we were talking about the deadline. First of all, I want to get that out of the way. We got to get people registered, and if you're not registered, you have till October the 5th?
That's right, Paul. It's obviously 30 days before Election Day, which is November 3rd, but that falls actually on a Saturday, so I believe it rolls over to the Monday, and that is the date. So there's never a deadline to register to vote. I want to make sure our listeners know that. You can always register to vote, but to vote in this year's election, you have to be registered by October 5th. So
now, to do
right.
that, do you have to go to the circuit clerk's office? Can you do it by mail? How do you do that?
Multiple ways to do it. We've actually got a form online that you can download, print, send in. You can go to the DMV. You can go to any other agency around the state, DHS, for example, that offers public benefits. You can go to your clerk's office. You go to the municipal clerk's office at the city. So there's multiple ways to register to vote. And we've been really on the front of this thing, encouraging people to go vote. We've talked to several of our university coaches. I know Coach Leach put out a group or a video of his whole team. First thing they did was register their team to vote. So a lot of folks are focused on this, and I'm really excited to see that good work.
And the age requirement is?
18. You have to be 18 by the time you vote. So that's a key provision there, making sure that you're 18 by November 3rd to vote.
And a resident of the state of Mississippi for how long?
That's exactly right. Registered state of Mississippi. That's a good one, Paul. Slip of mine there.
I'm asking you these tough questions, aren't I?
Yeah, that's right. Going down the list there. Let me get that date to you before I mess up on air.
I mean, do you have to be in the state? Do you have to live here more than a month or 2 months or a year or what? Or can you just move in and as soon as you register?
No, obviously you got to live here for a bit. I believe it's a month. Let me check that.
All right, we'll just if you don't get it now, we can get it later, and I'll mention it on the air. Mail-in balloting. That's the number one story. Again, you're following this. Everybody's looking at this, and it seems that the thing that they wanted to do, and they were holding over the stimulus package. By the way, we do have some word on that. Senator Kennedy is saying that they have a package ready, and they're willing to do this, and they think they can get it through. And they have 40 or 50 Republicans, and they think they can bring enough Democrats to the table to get this stimulus done. And it does have some additional money for the post office, but not anything where Nancy Pelosi and them wanted. They wanted literally billions and billions of dollars, and they wanted that, and they're holding the stimulus money hostage for the American people until they get it, which is not going to happen. But I think they just wanted it so they could institute this mail-in balloting. How do we look on this one, and what's your thoughts on the mail-in ballots?
The mail-in balloting, first of all, there's a real big discussion, obviously, with VBM, and that's vote by mail. Mm-hmm. That's an entire election where ballots are sent out to every registered voter across the state. You look at Washington, you look at Oregon, Colorado, several other states that do it. And that's where you see a lot of the issues, Paul. But you have to separate that, and this is what people love to jump on President Trump about. They'll say, well, he's against vote by mail, but he's absentee voting himself. Well, that's a little bit different. It's a different process to absentee vote as opposed to just getting a ballot in your mailbox. You've got to request the ballot. You got to go through certain steps to make sure that that's legitimate, and you're working with your circuit clerks to do that. So two different processes there, and people love to lump those in and say it's the same thing, but it's not.
Well, I mean, we have absentee balloting, and again, how soon can you vote here as far as the requirements as far as absentee is concerned?
Yes, so absentee ballots will start, absentee voting will start on September 21st. If you're UOCAVA, so if you're military or overseas citizens, you can start that process on September 19th. But everyone else can go to the clerk's office and start on the 21st, or obviously you can request your ballot by mail as well.
You know, the amazing thing about it is we are in an environment of total misinformation or disinformation. One of the things I've seen, and I saw it for the last several days, is there's people out there tweeting that they did a poll of the military people, and the military people, by a vast majority, are going for Joe Biden. And everybody looks at this and says, well, that's silly. And they know it's silly, but they put that mindset out there. They get people like me to mention this on the air. We know that that's not true. But that's their full-time job to use social media to spread this kind of stuff. And they spread a lot of disinformation as far as mail-in balloting is concerned.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And one of the things we started early on is this trusted source. Make sure you understand who your information is coming from. Mm-hmm. So we encourage everyone to talk to our office. If you have questions, talk to your local circuit clerk's office. And what we have seen in some of our briefings dealing with DHS and CISA, talking about security issues, what we've seen is China and Russia and others really engage in this disinformation campaign. And so it's very important, Paul, that people understand where their information is coming from. Just because you see it on Facebook or Twitter does not mean it's necessarily true. Please call our office, call your circuit clerk's office, and make sure you're getting information that's accurate and true.
Secretary of State Michael Watson, any effects at all, or will it have any effects as far as the lawsuits that have been filed by, I guess, the ACLU and others as far as the mail-in voting and that lawsuit? Will have no effect on what's going on as far as absentee balloting or the election coming up in November?
As you know, I can't comment too much on the lawsuit, but obviously their question is, what does it mean to be under a physician-ordered quarantine, mm-hmm. and what is the definition of dependent? So as the law is passed now, obviously folks can go read that, and we've got it up on our website. But I think this, as far as we're concerned, we're talking about what the law is currently, and the law says absentee voting starts on September 21st, so talk to your circuit clerk and make sure that process is underway. And listen, Paul, I want to make sure that everyone votes as early as they possibly can. So if you plan to absentee vote, do not wait until the last minute. That deadline is the Saturday before the election there, October 31st at 5 p.m. The legislature moved it back from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. And then they changed again to the mail-in ballot. As long as it's postmarked on Election Day mm-hmm. and received within 5 business days from Election Day, then it will be counted. So two very important pieces to talk about there that the legislature passed.
All right, tell me a little bit of what you want people to know, because you may have more people now than ever before using the absentee because of the COVID-19. What do they need to know about this? How to do it, when to do it, where to do it?
Yeah, again, so September 21st is when folks can go to their clerk's office and start filling out their ballots in person and/or, again, the mail-in process. There's an application. The application goes in, has to be received and going through, make sure it's legitimate, and then the ballot's sent. And, again, ballot is sent back in. And it's a little bit different this year. The legislature passed a couple of different pieces with that. So I encourage everyone to talk to our office, talk to your circuit clerk's office to make sure you have all of the information. There are, I say, 8.5 different ways. There are different reasons that you can absentee vote. If you're going to be out of your county on Election Day, if you are a teacher or a student and you are working, for instance, if you're a student out of your county of residence, if you're at Ole Miss and you live in Jackson County or any other county, you can absentee vote. Or if you're a teacher and you're going to be teaching on that day out of the county. Mm-hmm. If you are working from 7 to 7 for some reason, you can't get away to go vote. That is a reason to absentee vote. If you are disabled or temporarily disabled, and again, the legislature said under the temporarily disabled piece there that if you are quarantined due to a physician's order due to COVID-19, or if you're caring for a dependent under physician's order due to COVID-19, if you're 65 and older, if you are a member of Congress, or if you are a family member of Congress, or if you're an employee mm-hmm. of a congressman and you're going to be out of the area on Election Day, those two will allow you to absentee vote.
All of that's on the website. You can certainly read that and
yes, sir. Y'all
just find out exactly what's going on. Well, I would think the terminology of quarantine would mean that if you're going to Walmart and then Lowe's, and then you're stopping to buy, Chick-fil-A, and then you took a vacation, then you came back home and you're still not in the office and you go back into quarantine, that would not mean the word quarantine. So it's going to be interesting to see how that falls. All right, I want to talk to you about the medical marijuana initiative 65 and 65A. There are some confusion things on that one. Also, the flag decision will be on the ballot. Yes, sir. 3 more with the Secretary of State, Michael Watson. 3 more pumpkin spice things that you really need to get this year so you can enjoy the fall in the way it's meant to be. Numero uno, pumpkin spice latte body mist. So you can smell like a human pumpkin all day long.
No thanks.
Don't come in. It might. You never know.
No.
Number 2, pumpkin spice face mask. And number 3, pumpkin spice scented toilet paper. Just when you
Get
thought,
back to me on all 3 of those.
these are real things, by the way.
I know. That's the scary part.
When are we going to have an example on the Mississippi State's website of the ballot? How soon will that happen?
Yeah, coming up pretty quick. I believe on the 9th we should have something out for the public to view. Real quick on the register to vote and who can vote in Mississippi. It is 30 days. So I was
30
correct.
days.
I just wanted to make sure before I committed to that number.
Also,
on the medical.
Also, somebody wanted to mention on C Spire text line that even though you're voting in the absentee, they don't count the votes then. The votes are not counted until Election Day.
That's correct. And the legislature changed that this year. And on the campaign, Paul, we heard a lot from our circuit clerks about changing the way that they count the absentee ballots, and they wanted to keep them at the courthouse as opposed to the old law. Basically, they had to parse through all of those ballots and separate them by precinct, send them out to the precinct after the poll workers had worked 13, 14 hours a day. They didn't have to count them, so they were tired and ready to go home. Who knows, maybe they counted some ballots they shouldn't have and cast some out that they should have. So I talked to the circuit clerks, and they said, man, this is a great idea. We want to make sure that that's your final vote, and we process it here at the courthouse. So went to the legislature in January. That was a no-go, and then COVID hit, and it changed the conversation a good bit on the election front. And so the legislature decided, you know what, we will do that. So absentee now is your final vote, and it will be counted at the courthouse on Election Day. So the numbers will come out at the same time the numbers from the ballot boxes come out.
And that's in effect for this election in November, right?
It is, in fact.
And everybody's ready to go with that one. All right, so what are we going to see when we see the 65? Kind of explain it to me a little bit, 65 versus 65A.
Right, so you're going to have a couple of options, obviously, on the ballot. The first question is going to say, are you for one or the other? And it's a yes or no. So if you're not for either one of them, you say no. If you're for one of them, then you would say yes, and then you would go to, well, what are the differences here? And so you'd kind of read through and say, well, I like this one or I like that one. So you have an option to vote no on both of them, and then you have an option to vote yes.
All right, hold on 1 second. What happens if you say no, but then again you go back and you follow it up and you mark the 65 or 65A?
The scanner should count that no, and then it doesn't matter what you do after that.
Okay, so what? Anybody voting just on paper, though? I mean,
on paper, again, you got a scanning process there that may reject the ballot for too many marks on it. So folks need to pay attention to what they're doing.
All right, so if you say no, that means that you need to skip over the 65 or 65A altogether.
Correct.
Okay, and that's the way it's going to look. How extensive are the questions going to be?
We'll see a little bit of an inside scoop there on the 9th to make sure that I can explain exactly what the questions are going to be. Obviously, that language is a little bit long, and the process is, Paul, you get both sides to make a statement on it. The AG okays those statements, and those are what go on the ballot. So I've not seen that specific language yet. We're preparing right now for our hearings across the state. And so, again, both sides, 65 and 65A, you had to have a for 65 and against 65, then a for 65A and against 65A, and we'll explain all of those through our congressional district hearings. Yes, sir. So it'll be quite a process, but it's educational. And again, I encourage our folks to pay attention to this. It's a big issue for Mississippi. So make sure you're educated and not just this, but all of the issues.
So if you do say yes, one way or the other, there will be medical marijuana in the state. It's just going to be who's going to have the control of it one way or the other. Is it going to be the Department of Health, or is it going to be the legislature? And then that's back to the drawing board to execute the way it's done.
Correct. And very importantly there, Paul, 65 goes into the Constitution, and people need to understand that's very hard to change. 65A is statute, so it's important here. The statute would control it, but it's important here to understand that. And again, if you want it to be in the Constitution, then that's your route. But if you want it to be somewhere where it's a little easier to change if there are issues, then you'd probably prefer the statutory scheme.
65A is the legislative one.
That's correct.
All right, so people need to know 65 is the original from the initiative ballot that was all the signatures, but 65A is the alternative put forth by the legislative mandate.
That's exactly right. Yes, sir. And we'll be explaining all those in our congressional hearings.
And you're going to have to give us an hour and a half or 2 hours on the air to help explain that one. But let's go back to the flag. What will the flag thing look like, too?
Yeah, so, again, the commission, I believe the final meeting is actually tomorrow. And they've narrowed it down to 2. They will select one. And then basically the question will be pretty straightforward on the ballot. Do you support this being the flag of Mississippi? And it's a yes or no. And there will be a picture of the flag itself so folks can see it on the ballot. And then, again, pretty simple there, yes or no.
And it has to have 51% of the total number of people voting?
Yes, sir. I believe that's a majority vote. Again, I have to go back and look at that specific language, but I believe that's correct.
Well, can you get back to us on that one? Because, I mean, it has nothing to do with congressional precincts or all of that.
No, that was just a majority vote.
Yeah.
Let me go back and make sure that I get those specific numbers for you.
When you get them ready to go on the ballot on there, it would be good, and we'll put it on our website and do what we can to have people at least comfortable when they go in to vote, and they'll know exactly what's going on. That's
right. Yes, sir.
Anything else you want to mention while we're here?
We got a big focus this month on voter registration, obviously a very important piece. I want everyone in Mississippi that is eligible to go register to vote to have your voices heard. That's important. The second piece is we couple that with the census. Mississippi right now, we're right at 59%, a little south of 59%. We were at 61.3 10 years ago. And if we hit that same number, Paul, we'd miss out on $13.2 billion in federal funding over the next 10 years. So please go and fill out your census. You can do it online. You can do it by calling them, or obviously you can do it by paper as well. So 3 different ways to do that. I encourage people to go do that. It's big for Mississippi. It's constitutional. Your information is kept secret for 70 years, so no big issue there. And then we're going to couple that again with Voter Registration Month. So we'll be putting a big drive on that this month for the October 5th deadline to register to vote.
Just on a personal basis, did you go by the aquarium?
I did. Yeah. I did, Paul. Look, it's something that I hope Mississippi can rally around. As you know, I was a little bit questionable on that amount of public dollars going to that project, and still remain that way. But it's done now. It's in the ground and it's open. So I think it's incumbent upon all of us to try to support it the best we can and make sure that it's a success for Mississippi. It's pretty. They did a really good job. It's a beautiful event center there, and the Dolphins weren't there yet, so we're looking forward to seeing them when they get there. But several sharks and other things were there, and some crocodiles and alligators. So,
well, maybe they can name one of the sharks and one of the crocodiles after you.
I want one of the Dolphins. It seems to be a bigger draw. Secretary Bottlenose.
Michael, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Paul,
always good having you. Appreciate it. Michael Watson, the Mississippi Secretary of State. All right, 3 more pumpkin spice things that you must have during this fall